All right, what's poppin', Combat Sports fans? Welcome back to the channel. So I'm sorry I'm getting this reaction kind of late because it's gonna be like, what, Tuesday now that you guys are seeing this. But I was just out in Vegas watching the Super Bowl. Was, you know, the third time in my lifetime that I've watched my team, the 49ers, lose. And on top of that, it's the third time that now we're watching the head coach for the Niners, Kyle Shanahan, blow a lead, a 10-point lead in 3 Super Bowls now, which is unreal. Vegas was going to be the most packed and most like turnt it's probably ever been, or probably will be for like my whole lifetime, at least for the next 15 years. And I didn't get to see it because the fucking Chiefs win again, bro. Like, you can't escape them. They can't keep getting away with this, bro. But anyways, enough talking about that. Let's get to the fight night card that I kind of also didn't do that great in. I went 8-6, lost the main event. So now we're down to 2-2 on main events this year. Just an unfortunate start to the first 4 cards. But you know what? Last year's wasn't too great either. So we'll just get to right to talking about the main event. Jack Hermansson taking on Joe Pyfer. I thought Joe Pyfer would be able to get it done with those heavy hands, just throwing bombs in the first. And he was doing that. He was piecing Jack up, but at the same time, you could see Jack was always getting his guard pretty high. He was rolling off of a lot of the straight punches. A lot of the hooks would just kind of catch his arm. So, you know, already in the first round, I was getting nervous just after seeing that. And by the second round, I kind of just knew, like, Joe has nothing else to give him but this 1-2 hook and maybe a leg kick. And honestly, Jack Hermansson was whipping the leg kicks better. He was doing more. He actually did exactly the opposite of what I thought he was going to do. In my video, I predicted that he was going to try to play the same game that he played against Chris Curtis to win the fight. You know, staying on the feet, just being slick, landing more strikes, and just always being in Joe's face. I didn't think he'd be able to do that to somebody like Joe Pyfer, but he did exactly that to somebody like Joe Pyfer. And Joe was kind of salty after the fact, talking about how the fans have no right to talk shit on him, and how he's a savage and how he bleeds for this. It's like, yeah, bro, we get it, but like, you've been propped up so much by Dana White, and the fact that you come out here and you can't even smoke somebody like Jack Hermansson, which I'm not trying to take anything away from Jack, but at the same time, there's a certain level at middleweight, and if you can't get past like the Jack Hermansson level, you're not gonna be a champion. So I hope to see Joe Pyfer rebound strong. They need to not be putting him too much in the spotlight like this though, because that's how you turn a lot of the core fans away from somebody, if they're always in the spotlight and they don't deserve it. So please don't do that, because I like Joe Pyfer. And then down to the co-main event, Dan Ige took on Andre Fili. I trusted an underdog here. I trusted like 4 of them on the card, and a couple of them did hit. It just wasn't really the ones that I trusted at all. I thought Andre Fili would be able to use his range and, you know, piece up Dan Ige over 3 rounds, like maybe win 2 of them. I knew it would be a tough fight, and I also knew even when I called this that it's super unlikely that Andre Fili is going to, you know, just have the best night of his career against Dan Ige. Dan Ige's a dog. It's really hard to look great against him. You have to be a certain type of fighter. So Dan Ige comes out there and he does exactly what he's done in a couple of his last fights. He just gets his 50K bonus with 1 punch. Absolutely just smokes Fili with a check right hook, and then follows it up with some with a ground strike, I guess. But like, he really didn't need it. Andre Fili was out for the count. And it's unfortunate because I'm a huge Andre Fili fan. I live not that far from Sac, and you know, he reps Sacramento. It's tough, man, but like, what are you gonna do? 23-11, he is kind of one of those journeyman fighters. It's just, he's always gonna have my respect because he takes on the best of the best at featherweight, and you know, that's raw. Moving up the card, or down the card, I guess, Ihor Potieria took on Robert Bricek. Another one, man. Robert was like my lock of the card for these newcomers, because there was a couple of them that fought that night, and I thought that his oddly long arms and the way he throws rangy straight punches was going to be too much for Ihor. But I'm not going to lie to you, Ihor impressed me. I don't think he's going to do too great moving up at 185, but he did get his wish. He wanted to be a bigger fighter coming down from light heavyweight, and he definitely was. You could see the reach and the size advantage playing a factor. But the main thing that I felt like was his bread and butter was his movement. He was moving so slick, and there was one point in the 2nd or 3rd round where he actually almost TKO'd Robert Bricek, where he was just moving clean backwards with counter strikes, and he was landing uppercuts and straights and hooks, like all of them in a row. It was flush. It was really clean. In my opinion, he pretty much won every round except for the 3rd. I thought Bricek kind of did come back in that round, but they gave it to him unanimously, so good shit for Ihor Potieria, I guess. Another one down. It's unfortunate. Usually I end the cards really strong. Last week just was not the case. All of the last 3 fights went the opposite way. So I'm sorry if you listened to my picks and lost some bread. That's on me. But you know what? With some of these other ones, we did a little bit better. So let's talk about the next one. RoboCop taking on Brad Tavares. Gregory Rodriguez, of course. This was a scrap. I had a feeling this was going to be the sleeper fight of the night, and it was. They were going hard for the whole 3 rounds, just fucking swinging and banging. But in the end, Gregory Rodriguez really found his range with straight punches, and he just kind of lasered Brad Tavares until he couldn't take any more hits. And it's one of those fighters in Brad where you can tell that he's like too tough for his own good, because he was not going to fall until his body made him fall. So good shit to Gregory Rodriguez. He improves to 15-5. He's got another win in the UFC. I can't wait to see him climb up 185. Honestly, feed Ihor Potieria to Greg Rodriguez. Like, that'd be a great fight. Ihor is going to be trying to move backwards and be the faster one. Greg's just going to try to walk him down and land. And that's all he really needs to do to win that one. So give Rodriguez Potieria. That's a perfect matchup. And then we had Michael Johnson. Took on Darius Flowers, brother. I don't know why I trusted Darius Flowers either. Like, in my video, you can go back, I said he's not that good. He's not a better fighter than Michael Johnson. I just think Michael Johnson is too chinny. But of course, Michael Johnson decides I'm going to go to my wrestling and just neutralize any chance of me losing. And Darius Flowers looked like he did not know what to do off of his back at all. Like, I literally feel like I could do better going into a fight with Michael Johnson off the couch than Darius Flowers did. At least if I'm taking to my back, bro. Like, I'm for sure scrambling, moving onto my hips and trying to post up, get to my hands, something. Like, anything to get me off of the ground. And Darius Flowers was just content with laying there. Didn't look like he even knew how to, you know, shrimp out or move to his hip or anything. So, unfortunate, but I'm also not mad at seeing Michael Jackson be back in the win column. I mean Michael Johnson, Michael Jackson. You know, obviously the meme is like he could beat John Jones on his best day and then lose to like the 50th ranked fighter in his division on his worst days. Like, it's really a true meme. I was hoping it would have lived up to it that day, but you know what? Is what it is. Michael Johnson, the parlay killer, once again. Moving down the card, Rodolfo Vieira took on Armen Petrosyan. This one's weird for me because Armen, I didn't think he tapped at first, and then I wanted to hold on to hope that he didn't when he was protesting it, but then they showed it and it did really look like he tapped. And that's just surprising me that Rodolfo Vieira was able to come out there and smoke him in the first round with an arm triangle. Even just like with his takedowns and with his grappling in general, he was smothering Armen better than I expected. So already I'll give him that. Armen just didn't get his game off. And I was picking Armen to get his game off, land better strikes after a tough first round, win the second clearly, and then maybe get a TKO in the third. Didn't happen. But you know what? It is what it is. That's the name of the game. Good shit to Rodolfo Vieira. He is definitely going to get me paid at some point, because if he can keep getting wins, they're going to put him in a matchup with somebody like a fluffy type of fighter that he's already taken on. Obviously not him, but they'll put him against somebody like that where you just know it's a mismatch, because middleweight has those levels. Like, you'll have somebody like Rodolfo who bodies the people that are unranked, but then the second he even fights a top 15, mismatch. So I'm looking forward to that. Moving down the card, Carlos Prates taking on Trevin Giles. I'm sorry, he took on Trevin Giles. Carlos Prates was having a tough 2 rounds, almost the whole entirety of the 10 minutes he was losing. But I also predicted that. Now we're getting to some predictions that I actually got correct. I predicted that he was going to have the toughest fight of his career to this point, because Trevin Giles is sneaky good. He's a really good striker as well, and he was showing that. He was landing his 1-2s like they were nothing. He was just always finding a way to be in range and not get hit back. But Carlos started to figure that out. He started landing a little bit better kicks to set up his strikes, and then boom, he just lasers a straight hand, fully extended, down the pipe, knocks out Trevin Giles in one go. It was just so clean to watch. It was crisp. I'm super excited for Carlos Prates coming into the welterweight division. He's oddly skinny. His legs are oddly skinny. I was talking about that in my video. But he still lands with some crazy power. He's kind of like a 170 Yair Rodriguez. Like, it doesn't feel like he's caring about anything but putting hands on you. Like, he just has this demeanor. I don't know how to explain it, but I like it. So, good shit, Carlos Prates. I'm upset as well because I like Trevin Giles, but again, name of the game. Then we move down the prelims. Balaji Aki took on Timothy Kawamba. Great fight. Balaji Aki just, you know, looked a little bit better throughout the whole fight. Like, he looked like he was landing better strikes. He looked more explosive. They kind of play the same game. They're both like kickboxers. I'd say Timothy Kawampa likes to be more in the pocket with his hands, but they're both kickboxers for the most part. They want to be moving around, finding their range, finding their right strikes. And Balajiaki just did a little bit better. The judges gave it to him by a split. I thought it was like, honestly, clear as day, 2-1. Shit like that was annoying that night. Like, the judges really fucked up some fights, and they do all the time. I know it's corrupt. It's the one like major issue with the UFC. But yeah, we need to get something sorted out with that, because whole fighters' lives and careers are on the line, and it's just so disappointing. And then my parlays, my parlays are on the line. And then moving down the card, we got Loma Lukbun taking on Bruno Brazil, took on Bruno Brazil. Another one, just kind of easy, clear-cut decision for Loma Lukbun. She had better strikes. Anytime they went to the clinch or the grappling, Loma was just better. And that's how I predicted it. Not much to talk about on this one. Moving down the card, Marcin Prachnio taking on Devin Clark. One of the underdogs I kind of wish I took. My friends were joking about it right before, like, yo, we should just put everything on him. He seems like the right underdog. It didn't to me, but then the fight happened, and Devin Clark didn't really have anything for him until the third round. Like, that karate style was actually throwing Devin Clark off, and that's crazy to me. He didn't even try to shoot a takedown. And I know the commentary will be like, well, it's because Marcin and how he was setting it up. Nah, bro, he didn't even try to shoot. He didn't go for a takedown until like the third round, if he even went for one. He just tried to strike with him. It's like, there's shit like this that happens in MMA. It's like, how do you predict for that? I guess I need to just stop assuming that these guys are gonna come in here at their best and you know, actually fight to how their style would lend best, I guess. They're just not gonna do that. They're just gonna go in there and scrap. So I just need to start accounting for that, I guess. And I'm gonna do that, don't worry. Devin Clark, never trusting you again. I have said this before, I mean it this time. Moving down the card, Max Griffin took on Jeremiah Wells. This is one of those fights where I think the judges got it wrong. Now, either way, Jeremiah Wells has too many close fights like this, and he's not that great. So I was saying it the whole time I was watching the fights with my friends, not that great. And I wouldn't trust him against anybody that's even half decent at welterweight. I only did because it was Max Griffin, and he has 10 fucking losses, and he still is able to squeak one out with the judges. I thought he lost for sure, but you know what? Can't be mad at it. Jeremiah Wells is a grappler that didn't go for any takedowns, just tried to box Max Griffin, who is a longer, rangier, better striker. Moving down the card, Bogdan Guskov taking on Zach Puaga. Bogdan redeems himself. He screwed up one of the biggest parlays I've ever had last year, and I trusted him to get a knockout in this one, and he made me and the boys some money, so thank you, Bogdan. And he looked great out there. He was just so aggressive with those uppercuts and straights and hooks. He's just going for it at all times. He's trying to land, and he was landing a lot. I was kind of impressed with Puaga and his chin, but I just knew coming into this that he's not the same level as some of these light heavyweights. Honestly, as a lot of UFC fighters, I think he just needs to be cut and go back to the drawing board and work his way back up into the UFC. Genuinely, because right now he's just been getting smoked. Shout out Bogdan. Thank you for the parlay winner this time, and straight bet winner. Moving down the card, the last two fights, we're not going to talk about Daniel Marcos and Arichi Lang. Daniel Marcos was shredding him, and then an unintentional groin strike ends the fight. I felt like because it was halfway through the second, they should have given it to Daniel anyways, but you know, whatever. Hyder Emil taking on Fernie Garcia. Hyder Emil came out like a bat out of hell, which is what I was expecting. I was hoping he would use his grappling more and bring it to a decision. I thought Fernie would be tough enough, but his explosive striking did enough, and he got a standing TKO. You could tell Fernie was just done. There was like one shot in particular. I don't remember what it was on the feet, but you could just tell, like, he didn't drop, and he didn't really wobble or anything, but you could see on his face that he was done. So good shit for Hyder Emil. He improves to 9-0. He's got a great gas tank. I'm impressed at the pace that he holds, because most fighters coming into the UFC, especially at 145 pounds, where it's people really weight bullying themselves, and they're way bigger than the weight class. Those people especially, they don't hold a gas tank like this. But Hyder, you could tell, kid trains hard because he fights hard. So that was all the 14 fights from this weekend's fight card. Not the most eventful. I'm kind of getting tired of these fight night cards, just like a lot of you are. I don't know what happened to the stacked traveling the world fight night cards. Those were awesome. Those are what like mainly pulled me into being a fan of this sport. And now we're getting a whole lot of trash main events that I'll talk about some of those soon on the channel, because it is kind of crazy. And also coming up here, I'm gonna be talking about UFC 300. We've got a main event still missing for that, so we might as well break down the best options for that. But yeah, that'll be all.